Welcome to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I hope you're having a great day as we continue to celebrate so many amazing people across the state of Mississippi who are working so hard to make this place such a great place to live, work, and play. Hey, listen, last Monday on my outdoor show that plays every Monday at noon, I talked about how we're so lucky to live here. And to some extent, I really say that just about every single show. In fact, I was Ann and I were out in the yard this morning, and someone from the city of Biloxi came through, and we got into a conversation with him, and he was talking about his wife had gone to California for a couple of months to do some government work, and he went out to visit, and he said it was great to visit there, but he missed paradise. And he talked about how special this place was to him. He grew up on the point of Biloxi, and I thought that was pretty cool. It was a great conversation, but we tend to take it for granted, don't we? I mean, I think that's kind of normal. It's kind of a fact of life that we tend to not to fully appreciate those places or things that are closest to our home. Think about it, for example. When is the last time you drove down the beach and just only thought about what it is you're looking at? Like for example, the sand dunes and the seagrass on those sand dunes and how beautiful that is, and with the water behind it. And listen, coastal Mississippi is one of the few, in fact, I've been told only one of two, the other being in South Carolina, where you can drive down an unencumbered view to the south that is lined by live oaks. What a special thing that is. And you know what? When you think about Camille and Katrina and all the other storms we've had to endure, those live oaks have really stood the test of time. They're really resilient. Thank God they are, because it gives us this special place. But when is the last time you did that? When's the last time you just kind of thought about it? I was mentioning on the outdoor program that, there are a lot of places, a lot of amazing places across the state of Mississippi you can go to and enjoy this place. And one of the examples I gave was fishing at Horn Island. I remember the last time that I was fishing. I was wade fishing in the lagoons inside the island. And I looked up, and I just, there were 2 or 3 ospreys that were flying, and there was a 10-foot alligator nearby. Didn't particularly like that. But the point is, though, the wildness of it, the beauty of it, it is, it is breathtaking. And I told my son, Jordan, that this is probably one of the most beautiful sights in the country. Where we are right now is probably one of the most beautiful sights in the country. Then you think about Walter Anderson and how the Walter Anderson Museum has captured that. It's special, man, this relationship we have with the landscape. And that's what being a coastal community is all about. But you don't have to live in a coastal community to really appreciate living in Mississippi. We are really lucky to be here. And I see this as paradise. It's a place that no matter what I did in my career, I was always going to have a base station here, because this is my home, and I don't plan to go anywhere. And I don't think there's a better place in America, but it's just very special. I just wanted to share that with you. I would tell you to take a deep breath, go sit on the beach, and see the soul cleansing opportunity you have just to look south and appreciate what that's all about, that unencumbered view. Man, we're lucky to live in paradise. Someone who knows a lot about paradise is my friend Jonathan Allen, who has not been on the show in a while, but he's been on the show a bunch of times over the last 4 years, and he's with Allen Automotive Group, and someone I really enjoy spending time with. Jonathan, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, Ricky. It's always good to be on your show. I appreciate you asking me again.
Yeah, it's great to see you. Listen, you heard what I was saying. This line that we tend to take for granted, those places or things that are close to home. It's true, because we see it a lot. We see it every day, and we don't consciously even pay attention to it anymore. But man, we're so lucky to live here, aren't we?
Absolutely. I was hearing your opening monologue, if you will, about the live oaks and stuff. I am completely drawn to the live oaks in South Mississippi, and you said Camille and Katrina and all things that they've endured. That's like the people of South Mississippi. We are the live oaks. We endure a lot too. And these trees are incredible. And we do have the benefit of getting to be around them. We get to be around them is the way I see it. I mean, they've been here for hundreds and hundreds of years. So that's why I kind of laugh when we prune on them and cut on them and think we're helping. They don't need our help, but it's funny. It is a magnificent specimen of a tree, and we have thousands of them around here to just appreciate and watch how they contort and twist after storms, but come back to life. And if you've ever cut one up as firewood, you'll see how twisted the wood is and stuff. And it just shows how resilient the tree is it'll just morph to what the new world is, and then keep growing. And
you know what's interesting? After Hurricane Katrina. After the sort of the first wave of, we got a lot of input from people outside the area, people from here that left and couldn't get back in. They just wanted to know, is this still there? Is that still there? And whatever. Once we got through that sort of wave of requests and questions, people wanted to know, did that tree survive? They would ask us specifically about a tree, like I think, is it called the Friendship Oak at Gulf Park? They wanted to know about that, or they wanted to know about this one over here or that there. Yeah. It's amazing how we get attached to something like that, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes. Well, I mean, there's a life force going on there that we can't ignore. It's there. I mean, it's pretty amazing, really.
Well, hey, look, you live on the water, and so do I. Mm-hmm. And how often do you catch yourself, and this is almost daily for me, I catch myself looking out. And first of all, the scene is never the same. It is literally never the same. Clouds are in different places. The water's got ripples sometimes waves, sometimes none. Just so many different, the wildlife, all kinds of wildlife. But I'll just stand there and take it all in. And to me, that's actually part of my day. It's part of my day to go and see that and take it in. But gosh, is it special, isn't it?
Absolutely. And such a beautiful blend of nature. And man, you got some beautiful, lovely southern homes on these bayous and stuff. But then you have these areas of perfect, untouched nature and marsh where, you never know how the sunset's going to trickle through the trees and provide you, like you said, a completely different scene that you've been there 100 times before, but it's completely different. Beautiful.
Yeah, I mean it when I say it's soul cleansing. It really is. It's like going to church, is what I said on my outdoor show, and that's real. That's very real. I think most coastal Mississippians, if they just kind of freeze frame themselves for a second and say, you know what, I do take it for granted, but when I sit back and think about it, whew, buddy, are we lucky to live here? I don't care if you live out in the country or wherever. It's a special place.
Agreed.
Hey, listen, for people who have not heard you and me talk before, because it's been a little bit of time since we've been together, since you've expanded your auto empire, we've had conversations. But why don't you kind of give people a sense of what your group is all about?
Okay, well, we're the J. Allen Automotive Group here in South Mississippi. Been the Toyota dealer since 1987. Family members, and I've been personally the Toyota dealer since 2017. And a year ago, at the end of July, we closed on the Butch Ostolet dealerships, which was Ford, Lincoln, and Mazda. And it's just Ford and Mazda in Gulfport now. We are still operational in Wiggins as a service facility only, and off to the races doing car business with the Ford and Mazda brands. We have a future Mazda dealership about to be announced to South Mississippi. It's the first time for me to speak about it publicly as it's happening. You'll see a lot of press come about that in the next 2 or 3 months. But that's going to be a brand new Mazda facility next to the Toyota building. And we're starting the process of researching whether we should build a brand new Ford dealership out by the interstate too. That one's up in the air right now. We don't have to make that decision immediately. So, but a lot of exciting things happening, especially with the 3 brands we're involved in. I'm super happy to represent these 3 brands.
Hey, so that's been such an interesting trend to watch in coastal Mississippi has been the role that I-10 has played in the locating of dealerships. The decision you guys made to move from Pass Road to this incredible facility on I-10, it wasn't taken lightly, and I know it was a huge investment, but boy, did it pay off, didn't it?
It really did. I mean, if you go back in time and you go to any major city or any small city for that matter, the dealerships were right downtown, and they were small little facilities that were most likely, little service stations at some point in time. Well, then they moved out to the suburbs, and Pass Road was the suburbs, in the late 70s and 80s, and moving out of the main town towards where the population lived. Well, now the interstates are just the most convenient place for all the dealerships to be accessible for all customers of all small towns. given that every small town can't have a dealership in it. But when we moved off of Pass Road, we were a Gulfport Toyota dealership that became a South Mississippi regional Toyota dealership just by moving to I-10. And kind of the sky's was the limit. It's amazing how many people didn't even know at some point in time that we had been there for many decades that didn't even know that there was a Toyota dealership in Gulfport until we moved to I-10, which was in 2010, by the way. That's what's crazy. And it feels like yesterday, by the way, too.
Yeah. But it's part of the trend. Do you have a good footprint in terms of land there?
Out on the interstate, we've got 13 and a half acres. Yes.
Wow. So you have the ability to expand into other potential dealerships. Hey, when we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with Jonathan Allen. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank studio as we continue our conversation with Jonathan Allen from J. Allen Automotive Group, and someone I really enjoy checking in with from time to time. We've developed a good friendship over the last several years. And it's good to visit with him because we talk about trends and challenges and all that when we get together. Hey, so listen, let's do this. I want to start really globally for a second. Just talk because you serve on boards. You have incredible capacity to touch base with dealers from across the nation, for that matter. But let's spend a little bit of time just talking about trends, recent trends. What's sort of developing in the automotive industry, and then maybe highlight some of the challenges and opportunities that have emerged, and then we'll apply that to how that applies to coastal Mississippi. Okay.
Well, in automotive, Ricky, you and I have been talking about this. As it's been coming and as it's been going, is the electrification of the automotive industry and how it's really been pressed on us through an EPA mandate of stating that 65% or approximately in there of manufacturers produced inventory by 2032 has to all be electric. And if you've been paying attention lately to anything happening like that, they're starting to backtrack on this and realizing how unrealistic that is for these massive, international companies to shift their entire methodology and their entire business model based on an EPA mandate. No legislation, no debate, nothing, and just shaking an industry to its core almost. And this is an environmental a push from the environmental community, which has affected the way we all drive. It's affected gas prices. It's affected what we're selling, what we're choosing, what is actually the highest and best use of the current resource we do have, which is gasoline, the best version of what we have. And we're finding that hybrids are all around the very best version of what we can do to minimize our usage of fossil fuels, but still have effective automobiles for all of us to use and have quality, dependable transportation. That's a big deal. Is this shift also meant that we were going in a direction where we're not ready for that yet. Our infrastructure's not ready. Our idea of being limited by a battery in our automotive travels, and we're not ready for this yet. I mean, golf carts can have that problem and get stuck on hole number 9, but people can't get stuck out in the middle of the interstate in the middle of the night. That just can't happen. So there's range anxiety. There's so many issues that are unaddressed with this stuff. But really, how it's gone about with our federal government mandating it and pressing it, and some of the manufacturers really accepting this as it's the way it's going to be, but already seeing that wasn't the way it could go down. If it has to happen, let's do it incrementally. If 4% of the market wants an electric vehicle and they want to move to 8%, how about we start there and not say 65%? And it just sounds like a whole lot better idea in my opinion. But yeah,
so Jonathan, specifically about that though, I had the opportunity to chat with a young man by the name of Austin Golding. He's from Golding Barge Line in Vicksburg, and it's a family-owned business, and they transfer petrochemical either finished products or some of the raw products that comes out of the process, and they transfer it on inland waterways across the United States. And he is a really sharp young man. In fact, he's on national broadcast pretty regularly because of his observations. But we talk about the energy policy and the fact that it's a global market and how the global market works, and that America's energy policy, because we've tried to force it too fast to be something different. You say it affects automotive manufacturers, and the fallout of that all the way to the dealer level is very significant. A lot of what you were just talking about. The same thing is true for when you think about the investments that major petrochemical companies are making in, say, refinery capabilities, for example. And in fact, they have invested billions of dollars in more environmental friendly processing and so on. And so we just haven't talked enough about that aspect of it. But when you try to when your goal is to shut down oil and go to gas, and you think you can just will it to happen by establishing rules, it's so unpractical. It's so not doable, and it disrupts everything. And when we have an economy that's based on oil, I mean, that's the reality.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone will argue that some form of battery-powered vehicles are significantly in our future, especially as batteries improve. Hybrid, we can talk about how hybrid sales are with you. Hybrid seems so doable. There's so much that we can talk about that, but the fallout of trying to force it, it's been significant, man, because manufacturers were pressing forward and making less gasoline cars. They weren't the EV cars were not selling very well. I mean, that's really across the board for that matter. We need a coherent energy policy to begin with, and it really is a policy that should span, say, over the next 20 or 30 years.
Yes.
And that's the more realistic approach. And it's going to always be, whether anyone likes it or not, it's always going to be a mix of gas and EV and hybrid. That's just the reality of the situation. But the rules have had incredible impacts across the energy sector, across the automotive sector, and it really goes into literally the price of goods and services and so on. So it's not something you should do on a whim. It's something you should be very thoughtful about. What do you have to say about all that?
I can't place enough severity on what you just said. You can't turn this. We use this phrase a lot in car business because we're a lot of businesses under one roof. You can't turn a cruise ship like you turn a jet ski. And we're not turning a jet ski with this industry shift of, even if it's better, there's a better way to do it than what we're doing. We all don't know yet that it's better because we can't really see it properly executed right now with infrastructure. If we were to go all to electrical like they had mandated. But to do it incrementally might be able to show us the way over time. You just can't force feed this stuff because it's not necessarily a product everybody wants yet, nor is the infrastructure built there, nor is the technology the best it can. And when you force feed and you rush stuff, you get inferior product, and you get, big white elephants of things that get stuck in fields of be like, okay, well, we did this too much too fast. And there might be some wind farms out there that are big eyesores that are not being used because of stuff like this. We're just like, hurry up and go do it, even though that wasn't the highest and best use or the right answer for the current situation to incrementally grow. It's just like the resources are being thrown around in the wrong ways and not being targeted for the highest and best use. And I for one, can't stand waste. And we waste a lot in doing it the wrong way.
Look, the other thing is, though, listen, I'm not speaking badly of uncertainty, because uncertainty is in every industry. I mean, look at the industry I came from, the newspaper industry. You're talking about uncertainty. And thank God I landed at lastly in my career in digital media, which I got a chance to be part of building instead of managing the decline. Yeah. But the reality around uncertainty, when you inject unnecessary uncertainty, then it's hard to get to the local level, because every major policy on the federal level eventually gets to you. So when you're at meetings with fellow automotive dealership owners, that uncertainty affects your ability to strategically manage your business. And why are we injecting that complication unnecessarily? That's the point.
Oh gosh, because everybody's doing the dance of where they come from in the world and where their methodology is based on the idea of free markets versus does the environment play a bigger role than our viability as a capitalist society? I mean, there's no right or wrong answer here, and some people are making decisions from this camp over here versus this camp over here, and nobody wants to get along and communicate as to what will be the highest and best use of those time, attention, and efforts. I can't say that stuff enough.
Yeah,
because that's what needs to be paid attention to. What do we need right now, and what's the best thing to do right now, with an intention of moving forward. And really, I have to harp on Toyota a little bit, because they picked hybrid a long time ago, and it is the highest and best use of what we currently have. And I'll put this into real-time local perspective. The 2025 Camry is all hybrid. There's not an ICE internal combustion engine option available anymore. It's just a hybrid. We are sold out. We can't get any more of them. If we could, I told you off camera, if we could have gotten 30 more last month, we would have sold 30 more last month. This is a real demand, a real thing.
Hey, I tell you what, we'll pick it up literally from right there. We'll describe what a hybrid is today, and then more about what people like about them here in coastal Mississippi when we continue our conversation after the break with Jonathan Allen. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show. As I look at my friend and producer of this show, Cal Curley, and I thank him for what he does you can set your clock by Kyle. I say that all the time, but man, am I lucky to have him. Thank you, Kyle. Appreciate you, my friend. Jonathan Allen from J. Allen Automotive Group is with us today. I thought that was a really interesting conversation we had in the last segment, because it really speaks to the importance of an energy policy that everybody buys into, because at the end of the day, if you don't have one that's realistic and implementable, the confusion that can roll out of that into just about every sector of the economy is very significant. We should not understate how important this part of the conversation is. So it's really good. But we were talking about hybrids, and he was talking about the Camry. But I want to take a step back for a second, because we were mentioning this during the break, and I thought I'd mention it on air. When I was working at the Sun Herald, I had the opportunity to co-lead the strategic planning effort for Nate Ritter, the company that owns the Sun Herald. And I spent a lot of time in San Jose. With the guy who I worked with, who was the co-leader of the project, was a really smart dude, but he had a hybrid. And I remember the first time I got in it. I mean, of course, everyone who has their first hybrid experience, you have the same feeling, and that is you get to the red light, and it feels like maybe the car turned off, but it really was never on. It was just it's really the electric side of the car that's running the car. But I remember how smooth it was and how much he liked it, and this was kind of early in the journey. And now to think about it, that's nearly 20 years ago, and major advancements have happened since then. But we have come a long way, Jonathan. But still, back in those days, it was really reliable technology, wasn't it?
Overall, yes, and it's been interesting to watch and be part of Toyota since day one. I mean, the first retailable Prius was available in 2001. It wasn't until 2003, 4, 5, 6 that the Prius really started becoming a hybrid standalone. People considering them, and then the tax credit started flowing in for it. But yes, it's been around for a very long time, and it's been very fun to watch over the 20 years. People, their hesitations towards this new technology become not so concerned anymore, and be like, oh well, now I have friends that have had one 2 and 3 times over, and now their hesitation or fear about it being different is just gone. And I put it in perspective. I drive a full-size Sequoia that's a V6 turbo hybrid, and that says everything. It tows as much as the last 5.7 liter V8 did, and the fuel economy is about the same, with a little bit better trend in the right direction. And I mean, still a full-size SUV, but it also is a 10-speed transmission. It's a better drivetrain. they've all consistently gotten better and better and better. And the fact that you can have a full-size SUV, a full-size 3-row SUV that's a hybrid, and it work efficiently and it's perfectly powered. You can tow with it. You can do everything you would have done with it. Says to me that hybrid isn't this thing that's just this novelty that, you can try it out if you want to. No, it's a legitimate deal. And all the 2025 Camrys now are all hybrid. There will not be an ICE version anymore, internal combustion engine, for those of you that don't know what ICE is. But they will all be hybrid from now on. And by the way, our dealership is sold out. That's how well they are received. Sold out.
That's a good problem to have. In fact, we'll come back to that here in just a second. But hey, let's take another step back and say, what is hybrid? Because people hear hybrid, they may not necessarily really understand what a hybrid car is. Explain it.
Absolutely. Okay, so in the easiest way of putting it, the originals were a battery operated fuel injected motor that goes back and forth between the two as needed, and it has its own sensors that kicks them back and forth, and there's functions inside the car that are constantly made to recharge the electric battery. Whenever it slows down, if you've ever ridden in hybrids, you hear the kind of a winding down. Well, it's using that brake force distribution to recharge the electric battery for when the time comes that it can kick the gas motor off and kick you back into electric. That's the idea, is that the hybrid uses the gas to recharge the electric. So you're using the electric as much as it possibly can. And it's a hybrid. It's the best of both worlds. You get a little bit of electric, but you also get the safety and security of, I got my gas. I can get home if I run out. I don't have to wait for a charge or anything because the car is doing it all itself. Now, Ricky, the next best version that's coming up before we go full-blown electric is plug-in electric hybrid, where your day is 20 or 30 miles. Your plug-in can guarantee you that 20 or 30 miles. You can use your plug-in electric hybrid and use all electricity most of the time, but if you wanted to go take a road trip to the panhandle of Florida or to wherever, you could, with that safety and security, knowing that you're not just electric, you're not stuck to the grid system of charging and however long that takes. I think plug-in electric hybrids are the next best version, but hybrids, it's almost 50% of Toyota volume at this point. For all the Toyota cars we sell, it's almost there. It will be 50% very soon, and then we'll just keep going further that way, because as the motors and the drivetrains become ample for us to do everything we want to do with these vehicles, there's no reason to go backwards.
Hey, in fact, what the federal government should have done is focus on hybrid. That's it. And we would already be there. And so just misguided. Misguided. The reality didn't match up with the goal. And
no.
It would have been so easy to say one change from EV to hybrid, and we would be in a better situation, wouldn't we?
Yes. Or plug-in electric hybrid. That one cannot be. That one's not been talked about enough. Is if you really want just the electric, there is a way to have both, and you can still say I'm all electric all the time, but I do have this little insurance.
So I literally the first time I've heard that phrase is now, and you know me, I'm reading a lot, and you're sharing stuff with me all the time, but I didn't understand that term. I didn't hear that term, and it seems like the next natural thing. However, wouldn't the cost be greater? How does that work?
They can be, but there's a bigger macroeconomic play for the manufacturers to produce plug-in electric hybrids, and this is why. And you may have seen these stats out there. To make there's manganese and all these precious minerals that go in these things, and I might get the numbers not exactly correct, but this is a good broad understanding. To make just one standalone electric vehicle, you can make 9 of the plug-in electric hybrids. You can make 65 hybrids.
Wow.
With the same amount of material it takes to make one electric. And mind you that manganese is a major mineral in this, and 90% of the mined manganese comes straight out of China. That's facts. And if you need to check me, go find it. But 90% of manganese comes from China, and if they own the battery manufacturing of the world, then they own the electric car market for the world. and we're at that mercy, and that's something that nobody wants to talk about out loud. I will.
Yeah, Elon does. It's interesting because Elon Musk, he really has focused on what type of battery manufacturing capacity is required, not just in terms of the manufacturing process itself, but also the raw materials that come into those. Mm-hmm. And it's when you hear it put in perspective, in order to reach even anywhere near the goals that are stated, it seems so crazy unrealistic at the end of the day. So
that's just more of the same, where we get a lot of policy come out of the thought leaders that don't do much thinking about this stuff, or they're not asking the right people.
Yeah.
And they need Elon Musk's opinion about all this, and they're not asking him for it.
Yeah. It's really crazy. But plug in, that's cool. I like the thought of that, because it takes it a step further to be more electric. You could actually not use your engine at all driving around town, most likely.
Yeah. Yes.
But then if you decide, man, I'm going to go to Wiggins to get some fresh fruit or fresh vegetables, and I can't go because I don't have enough battery, and it's not even on your mind anymore. You can go and I'm assuming it just switch over naturally, just like a hybrid would, to the gas when it's necessary.
It does. Instead of just the motor, like I described on hybrids, working back and forth to recharge itself, you just get that charge from your plug-in at night, and it already starts with a full day's charge.
Yeah.
It's going to let you do whatever you need to do on it, and that can handle your day-to-day. And it is the best of both worlds. And Ricky, you and me talking about it is important, because the public needs to start asking more about plug-in electric hybrid.
Yeah.
And have that both, not just plug-in electric.
Yeah, I love the thought of it. Hey, there's another
term, PHEV. PHEV.
PHEV. Okay, so look, another part of this, which is actually really important, and obviously you've reached that point, but there's a point in the servicing of those vehicles where you've actually begun to develop internal capacity that can handle a lot of volume. And I bet that took time, didn't it?
Okay, so explain.
Yeah, I'm saying working on hybrid, the technology is different. So over the years, you've had to build internal capacity around that. And you're actually at a point now where, in fact, we'll do this on the other side, but you're at a point now where you can actually do it. And you've got people on your staff that can do it. But if you're only selling one every now and then, that would be really hard. So we'll continue our conversation with Jonathan Allen when we get on the other side. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I have Jonathan Allen from J. Allen Automotive. I enjoy talking to him because we always get into trends and things such as that. And the whole electric vehicle discussion in America is an important one. And no one's saying they're not good. What we're saying is that when you develop federal mandates that are not realistic, you can literally turn multiple energies on their heads simultaneously. And that's not good, because it disrupts supply chains and it creates all kinds of challenges. Okay, so what we were talking about before we went to the break, one of the things that if you look inside your service department now, and you think about where you were, say, 10 or 15 years ago, the level of skill set and the kind of people that you're hiring, it's got to be different.
Well, it is. The availability of what people come into the business knowing now is much less than what people came in knowing in the past. You had a lot of car enthusiasts, a lot of tinkerers, people that would mess with the vehicle with a dad or a grandfather growing up and stuff. And that's just not happening as often now. I mean, the car enthusiasts that we get that are interested on working on vehicles in a dealership shop typically are your tuners or your aftermarket people that like car stereos or visual effects and stuff, not necessarily mechanical. Now, there are your fair share of mechanical gearheads out there for sure. I'm not discounting them by any means, but there's not as big a crowd out there coming prepared. So when we onboard people in our shop that are interested, is we start them off learning how to do basic maintenance, and then we add competency levels and different like genres of how you work on the vehicles, whether you're an electrical person or you're a transmission person or you're a full master diagnostic technician. I call that the doctor. The doctor comes in, they say what's wrong, and then we put the specialist on it. So, I mean, it really is. We treat them like doctors, and they do learn their core competencies as time goes on through extremely strenuous training, because these are very competent, difficult vehicles. They're very hard to learn. And when you learn them and somebody knows that, that's a very good skill to have. It really is.
Well, you've been lucky. And of course, we talked a lot about the supply chain related to the computerization of the the car, and how some things were available and other things were not. But we're in a different world from a technological point of view. The fact that you can plug a car in and learn so much about it. I mean, literally, actually, the better question would be, what can you not know about the car by plugging it in?
That's a good point. No, it's. I don't even know. I can't even answer that question. Probably can learn a whole lot more than even I know. And so here's a good test on that one. I have, when somebody comes and tells me, goes, well, I went and got my car serviced somewhere and I just had it plugged in by the shop and it threw this code and this code and this code. This is not an auto savvy person talking to me, but they know that they can go plug it in and it throws codes, and then they know what to address with their vehicle. It is pretty cool that this tech exists to be able to go hyper target to the thing that needs the attention, as opposed to just, look, let's look at this entire car and break it apart one by one. It's really fascinating how far they've come with the computers that are in them and stuff, and how easy it is to work on them when we can pinpoint the problem quicker.
Hey, did you anticipate? You mentioned a minute ago about the Camry selling so well. In fact, you're sold out. I'm assuming it's selling like that across the country, which would mean then the supply chain is disrupted currently. Did you anticipate that? That's a cool thing to want, but it's also a challenge at the same time.
No, we don't like sold out. We like just enough inventory to keep turning and stuff. And we're a heavy sedan Toyota dealer, but our region includes Texas, and naturally, so there's a lot of Tundras and Tacomas, and we sell a lot of Tacomas. But Tundra has its competitors in the F-Series truck, the Silverado and the Ram, and the GMC. So I mean, we're fighting for our market share on full size truck, but the car market for Toyota is super strong, like so strong that you saw Ford and some other brands get out of the sedan game, and they're almost fully out now. Not quite yet, but they're getting there. And it's because they were like, we can't build this car profitably, effectively, and brands like Toyota just do it so well. They just said, we're out of this market for now. And like the Camry is the end all be all of sedans, and it has been the greatest morphing version as to what the most buying public wants over time. And I'm not shocked that the newest one is the highest and best one, and we can't get enough of them, and their demand outweighs the supply. Of course, in the beginning, that happens a lot with a new model. It's a brand new model. It's a brand new Camry. But it really is. It's sky's the limit with them. And once we get a bunch of them, I guarantee you we'll be selling 25 to 35 of them a month here.
Well, that means you're listening. The Toyota's listening to the customer and able to turn on a dime. And, they've always been really good at that. Hey, listen, we're out of time, but the next time we get together, we'll talk about the Ford dealership. You mentioned trucks. I've driven an F-150 for several years with EcoBoost, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. It's been an absolutely incredible truck, and I spent a lot of time in Mississippi Delta on farms and mud and doing you name it. And it is a really dependable truck. I've enjoyed having it. Hey, listen, have a great day, my friend.
Thank you, Rick. Yeah, I appreciate everything. It's always good to come on the show.
You bet. It's been a terrific visit. Hey, listen, have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Take care.